Good.
I'm like, is it recording?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, I guess we're just going to start. So please, if you can you see the chat? Is that also being shared?
No, I can't see the chat.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, if you guys can just type in the response that you think is correct. So we'll just get started.
And you'll get full credit for the extra credit if you do that. Even if you
Hmm.
just guess.
Exactly. Um, well, I guess, yep, C is correct. So the bystander effect is the tendency for any given bystander to be less likely to give aid if other people are around. So the more people there are, the less likely there'll be aid given. So you guys are both correct. Good job. Any guesses? Want to give a guess, Vincent? Or all right. So Marcus is correct. It is C. That is because there's this phenomenon called a social script, which is a culturally modeled guide for how to act in various situations. So media that portrays sexual aggression as pleasurable for the victim can actually influence the future use of coercion in sexual relations because people believe that's the social script to follow. So also the repeated exposure to sexual violence can make sexual aggression seem less serious too. Does that make sense? I'm going to assume yes. All right, you guys are both correct. You guys did this as an activity, so there is central and peripheral route persuasion, and this type is peripheral because it doesn't use a very direct approach. It's very you just uses positive cues in society to persuade you into buying whatever the ad is trying to endorse. So yeah, you guys got it. So it actually is B, social loafing, which is a tendency for people in a group to exert less effort when pulling their efforts towards attaining a common goal than when it's like we individually have our own parts. So since you are in a group project, someone might be less likely to help because then they're like, the other members, they got it. I don't need to put in as much of an effort. Social facilitation, though, is the presence of others will improve performance on simple or well-learned tasks, but it also can worsen our performance on a difficult task because of that social pressure. And so, yeah, does that make sense? The difference between those two? I'm going to assume yes. Thank you, Vincent. Yeah, you guys are both correct. So the fundamental attribution error is the tendency for observers when analyzing others' behavior to underestimate the impact of the situation and to overestimate the impact of a personal disposition. So the teacher thinking that Anya is unmotivated to do well in school is not considering the situations like A, C, and D were kind of have as their examples. So yeah, and C and D would actually be attribution theory, as we can attribute Anya's poor score to a situation. So good job, you both got that correct. So A is the correct answer, as a tight culture is a culture that has clearly defined and reliable imposed norms to follow, even if no one's around to like make sure you're following them. And a loose culture is actually the opposite, where it's like there's norms, but it's not like you're expected to follow them all the time. So in this situation, it would be a tight culture because someone would even still wait to cross until the walk sign comes on, even if like the dead of night where there's no one around. And then I just threw in normative, informative to kind of like throw that off. So, but great, you guys are doing great. Oh, I meant the front yard. Whoops. So this would actually be D, which is the foot in the door phenomenon. So we tend to agree to a larger request, aka the sign going into our front yard, after already agreeing to a previous smaller request. So like signing the political, like whatever it is that you've signed, petition. So again, just think of like just because you already agreed to that small request, you kind of already got your foot in the door, and now someone can't close the door on it, so they can ask for even a larger request. And the other A, B, C are some other phenomenons. So do good, feel good is pretty much when like if we feel good about something, we're most likely to like act like in a good way to other people around us. So like if you feel good, you might be willing to pay for someone's lunch. And then the just world phenomenon can be similar to victim blaming, where you believe someone deserve what's happening to them because of like the actions they've done. And then the mere exposure effect is the more exposure you have to something, the increased likelihood that you will grow to like it. So any questions? Are we all good on each different phenomenon? Perfect. And there'll be like questions up ahead, like that will showcase these phenomenons in their own ways. Yeah, you both got it right. So, like I mentioned, the mere exposure effect is this tendency for repeated exposure to a novel stimuli to increase our liking of it. So, this kind of happened to me. It's like a true story, but my friend kept playing Taylor Swift music all over the summer. And because I kept having that repeated exposure, I've grown to like her music. So, yeah, you guys got it. So this is actually true. Aversive stimuli are stimuli that are unpleasant to us. So like hot temperatures, physical pain, hunger, thirst, that kind of stuff, which can then lead to like an individual to be more hostile because, if you're in an unpleasant mood, you're more likely to kind of like lash out. And the frustration aggressive model is a principle that frustration creates anger, which then can create aggression. So just being in an agitated state from an aversive stimuli can like contribute to that model. So does that make sense? I would assume yes, because you guys are superstars. Yeah. So it is in group, out group. Um, so the in group is an us group. So that would be like us fellow JMU students. And if we see like other university schools, they would be the out group because that is a them group. So you guys got it. And also a little fun fact that we tend to have an in-group bias, which is the tendency to favor our own group. So that's why you might always be like, go Dukes, whenever you see a Virginia Tech student.
Okay, so this one is C. So the person admires the group status. So just a little reminder, conformity is adjusting our behavior or thinking to coincide with a group standard. There's actually a lot more examples in page 402 of your book of other ways that a person is more likely to conform to a group. But in this case, the correct answer is C. So good job. Okay, so this is a tricky one. The Milgram study is a complicated one. The right answer is A. So when the learner is far away from the teacher, the rate of obedience is higher because you can't really see what you're doing, and how it's affecting that person. So this is in page 403 of your book. It's a long study to read about, but pretty much a little rundown is that you and another person draw out of a hat to see if you'll be the learner or the teacher, but both slips say the teacher. So you know that the experimenter knows that you're going to be the teacher. So the learner is planned, and it's a man who sits in a room next door, and he's strapped to a chair, and wires run through the wall from that chair to a shock machine, which is controlled by you, the teacher. And your task as the teacher is to teach and then test the learner on a list of word pairs. If the learner gets one of the pairs wrong, you have to deliver a shock to them. And pretty much the study just progresses in different ways. Like at one point, the learner tells you that they have a heart condition, and at one point they start to yell and scream, and the learner then begins to complain about like the pain and wanting to leave, but you're told by the experimenter to keep going. So as you get more exposure to that learner, even though he's like it's staged and it's not all real, you're going to not want to be as obedient to the experimenter because you feel so bad. So yeah, but 403 in your book, it runs down the whole thing if you still want to learn about it. Yes, I'm so proud of you both. It is B. So cognitive dissonance theory, just as a little refresher, it's a theory that we act to reduce the discomfort or dissonance that we feel when two of our thoughts or cognitions are inconsistent Of course, Vincent. So an example could be like being paid to write an essay about something that you might not necessarily agree with, like maybe tuition being raised, and you feel responsible for what you wrote on the page, which is inconsistent with your attitudes and how you feel. Yes, so this one is C. So yeah, stereotype is just a generalized belief about a group of people. They're usually really overgeneralized and only sometimes accurate. But yeah, C is a stereotype. Yes, good job. Passionate love usually comes at the beginning of a relationship. So it's that like intense absorption of the other person and almost like a lot of people call the honeymoon phase. Um, yes. Yes, good job. This is usually found later in the relationship. Um, this is what's so important in marriage, like your textbook talks about. And it's what makes marriage so strong, that compassionate love for each other. It's more than just the surface level, like you connect on a very deep level, and you're both very involved with each other's lives. Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys are on a roll. This one is narrative social influence. Just a little refresher, group polarization is the enhancement of a group's prevailing inclinations through discussion within the group. Social facilitation, we talked about a little bit before, and informational social influence is the influence resulting from a person's willingness to accept others' opinions about reality and how they see the world. So this one is actually A. So if you can see, Sasha is listening to others and how they view the world around them. They're taking into consideration their perspectives, along with using research to back up those views. Um, just world phenomenon is the tendency for people to believe that the world is just and people therefore get what they deserve and deserve what they get. So that's a little bit different. There's those who can get kind of tricky. And scapegoat theory is the theory that prejudice offers an outlet for anger by providing someone to blame. And then mere exposure effect we talked about earlier. So yeah, this one's a little tricky. They can get confusing. Yes, this one is D, the tendency to assign responsibility for others' behaviors due to their inherent characteristics, such as their motives, beliefs, or personality. That is dispositional attribution. Situational attribution and external attribution are pretty much the same thing. It's just like having to deal more with setting and context of the situation. And foot in the door is just to throw you off. We talked about that one earlier. But that was the last question. You guys did really good, but we're gonna send in even though there's only two of you, we're still gonna send in the attendance form. Let me just put in the link.
Also, do you guys have any questions about the questions we went over? I mean, you guys killed it though.
Yeah, thank you for participating.
No, you both did great.
Let me know if the link doesn't work. I can try again.
And if you feel like you need more practice, we did put out the review packets for chapter 12 last week, I believe.
Yeah,
So,
it was a while ago.
yeah. So, and a lot of those questions are very similar to the ones that we just went over too.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you guys fill that out, you're free to go. Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck on the quiz tomorrow. It is tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, let me stop recording.